Welcome to the weekly recap. To start off, let's talk about the new COVID designation rule. So if you have any game that gets delayed until like a Tuesday where there wouldn't typically be a game played, and so you have to make a decision on whether or not to start someone in a Sunday game or to start someone on a Tuesday game that may or may not happen because of COVID, you are allowed to designate a player. If you want to start someone from that Tuesday game, you can put them in your starting lineup and then designate a backup in the chat. And by doing that, what will happen is if the Tuesday game plays, your Tuesday game player's points go to your score. If the Tuesday game doesn't play, I will manually move that designation into your lineup, which should alter the scores. We don't know yet. We haven't had an issue with it yet. But if it doesn't alter the scores, I'll go in there and manually do it to make it all work. So that's how we're going to handle that. I wish I had been a better commissioner and sorted this out a week ago, because then I wouldn't have lost to Rick because I didn't Josh Allen because I was afraid that game wasn't going to happen, and Daniel Jones shat the fucking bed. So
Nick just didn't have the balls to play even one of his players on that Tuesday game. When you're sitting at the bottom of the barrel, you've got nothing left to lose. You play two people from the Titans, and you beat Scott. Speaking of which, welcome back, Scott. We'd like to welcome you back to the league officially, playing a legal lineup, making trades. I mean, you're like a whole new person.
Yeah, Scott's back in, and he's rocking and rolling. Even though you came out with a surprise victory.
I was not expecting to win this week. I was expecting to become 0-5, but here we stand with. See, when you've got the balls to play the Tuesday game, Nick, it pays off.
Yeah, I wish I had those balls, but that game was too close, and I thought Daniel Jones could put up more against the Cowboys, and I was wrong. But speaking of bad choices, Tim, Mr. Shit Quafecta this week with his worst manager, biggest blowout, biggest loser, and below expectations. So not only did you set the worst lineup out of all of us, that lineup didn't meet the expectations that Sleeper projected them for, and then you were, unsurprisingly blown out in the lowest scorer of our league. So really sucks to be you this week, bud. And this is right after you traded away McCaffrey for a guy that is now on bye this week. So hopefully this week is a little better for you. But
it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off.
Precisely. Looks like they're going to forfeit, Cotton. It's a bold strategy. We'll see if it pays off for them. But getting into trades, right? We had a lot of trades this week. It's almost like the league is realizing that with a dynasty league, waivers are pretty thin, and trades got to happen. So, and I think everyone's starting to figure out dynasty value. We've had a lot of really good trades this week. It's been really interesting to watch.
Yeah. I think more trades this week than we had last season.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
I am confident in saying that. And for some really big players too.
Yeah.
I mean,
people's names are moving around.
Yeah, which sometimes you wouldn't expect. I mean, one of the biggest ones is we saw Zeke and Jacobs, or McCaffrey and Jacobs go in the same trade.
Yeah.
Rocco doing a swap there with a first-round pick. That's pretty hefty, and it gave Rocco the quarterback he needed so desperately because his team was just full of Patriots backups.
And yet they'll still do better than my quarterbacks did this last week. -1.5 points from Jimmy G, y'all.
Dude, he was not ready to be back. They pulled him mid-game. That was just bad. That was so bad. Hopefully because I like watching the 49ers, but
it was a bold call, but I was very, very low in my quarterback depth and options to play anybody else.
When Jimmy's starting, you start him. It's hard not to, especially when there's such limited options in this league. We even had a three-way trade this week, which I was a part of. I had tried to make a three-way trade previously with Tim and Rocco, but I guess they decided that they just wanted to get it done without me, and so they made their two-way trade.
Nick, that just means you're the side chick.
Yeah, I'm the problem, really, is what that means. We had a three-way trade between me, Mr. Mojo Risen, and Rick, So me, Rich, and Rick, because that's Mr. Mojo Risen's name. I just wanted to say it and get it right because I got it so butchered the first time I did it. But that was an interesting one. Rick needed a quarterback, so he traded for Matthew Stafford, who then turned out to be on bye the week he traded him.
Oh.
So he then had to make a second trade, if you may notice, in the transactions for David Carr, just straight up Matthew Stafford for David Carr. So Rick got a little screwed there, and then this week, Rick gets screwed again when two of his other quarterbacks are now on bye. So he needs an additional quarterback. So I traded the $15 of fab I originally spent on Kyle Allen. I got that back to give Rick Kyle Allen back. So
things are fluid and moving, and I hope it continues that way for the rest of the league because it'll really kind of, especially in a season like this one with so many injuries and changes, that's just you're not going to be able to sit there and camp on McCaffrey and have no legitimate reason to really trade him unless something bad happens. And with all the injuries and things like that are happening now, I think it's partially part of what's encouraging everybody to being like, I need to trade because there's so many injuries, there's so many issues. And then when you have the injuries on top of the bye weeks, on top of all the COVID stuff, what used to be a good amount of depth of players has now become there's just not enough players in the league for that kind of stuff on top of what we're dealing with here, especially at certain positions like quarterback and things like that, where you have a backup quarterback is not necessarily the same equivalent value as a backup running back or receiver who's like number 3 instead of number 2, all that stuff. So I think it's definitely encouraging a lot of us to think more trade wise.
Yeah, and if you get unlucky, you get screwed with COVID and injury, and the next thing you know, the team you had isn't a team anymore. So,
and then when in doubt, you can go with the Scott strategy and hope if it wins. No offense, Scott, you're back, but you still did it. 3 illegal players, and you still won.
Yeah, it's one for the records. That one's
it is. I don't think we're going to forget that one.
Yeah. That's all I got for this week. It's been an interesting week. Hopefully it continues to be interesting. We might get some more COVID games this week, but as of right now, it's looking like we've got a normal NFL schedule. How weird.
Yeah, no, it's potentially, just literally as we were setting up for the recap, Nick and I got the notifications that Odell Beckham Jr. got sent away from the Browns with some kind of quote-unquote illness. So we'll see how that potentially develops in the next day or so.
I just hope play so I can play Jarvis Landry in my keeper league. I really need a good flex start, and if Landry is the one, that might be my way to go. But have a great week, everybody. Good luck and good hunting.
Exactly. Till next time.